will give you an overview about the current state of AI security and make sure that you know everything about how to secure your AI-powered systems. Please welcome Natalie.
Thank you very much. If anybody's standing in the back, there are 5 or 10 seats here in the front if you want. Not offended if you're moving, everything's good. So this talk is about security in the era of LLMs and GenAI, and I introduced myself previously a little bit. Now I'll introduce myself a little bit more. I worked for about 10 years in the field of backend, DevOps, engineering management. I'm teaching DevOps at the HTW here in Berlin. I'm a security enthusiast. I'm not working in that, but I'm going to DEF CON and hanging out at Seabase and so on. And I am a developer ambassador with OpenAI in the last 3 years. I've also been following everything that was happening tonight, completely crazy, no idea, but it's super fascinating. Over the last couple of months, I was doing a podcast with a friend who used to work at Kaspersky. You can find it on Spotify. We did 7 episodes until we decided to stop. I'm bringing the AI part, he's bringing the security, and we're kind of just discussing about all sorts of interesting things. You're welcome to listen if you're interested. This is how it's called. Our logo is this monkey. And my plan for today is to very quickly go over the history of LLMs and ChatGPT and kind of everything you need to know, other than that you can tell it how to make a bomb out of your grandma's candy factory. A little bit about the different other tools that are out there, like voice, audio, image, and so on, and some conversation on autonomous agents. And we start. ChatGPT. Everybody knows and loves. Anybody in the crowd does not pay for it. By you don't pay for it, I mean not your employer, like you're just using the free version. Okay, interesting. This side more. So after ChatGPT came to be, this was the most boost in product history, I guess. And GPT-3 is when I joined the whole thing. That was a very different UI. That was a very different type of a conversation. That was not chat. That was more completions. And that I want to say one more thing, that as a developer ambassador, you can go to the website and book office hours with me or with somebody else. We have 5 developer ambassadors on the OpenAI website. You can book office hours and come with any question that you have. In the time of GPT-3, it was kind of like help me wrap my hand around the concept of completions, but ever since ChatGPT became a chat, it became a lot more simple and the questions became more around product and so on. Then came plugins. Anybody built a plugin? I did. I'm organizing a conference that's called GopherCon, as you might have seen from the emails. And we built a plugin for that conference where you can chat about the agenda and kind of say, this is my background, this is what I want to know, and so on. What would you recommend for me to go? Plugin started with 8, and then it became a whole app store that can do all sorts of different things. And this was a very interesting technical improvement because not only ChatGPT is now able to understand what you want and have a reasonable conversation with you, it was also the technological innovation of here's an API, and now translate what the user says into an API call. And lots of developers were like, oh, this is going to take my job. Then came functions, because the demand was like, this is an interesting thing. I actually don't like doing, working with new APIs. I want to give you an API, and you figure out, ChatGPT, you figure out how to handle this, and then not necessarily as a plugin, but let me use this as a tool. So that's how functions came to be. Basically, you give it an API, and then you say anything that the user gives, translate it to a call based on what the API is. Popular, people liked it, and it's pretty cool. Then the next development was fine-tuning. Fine-tuning is kind of the next level in that personalization. So you give it, you train it on some data, and then it does a specific behavior as you want it. The way to think about it is not exactly the what, but more the how. So it's good for things like corporate voice, right? The marketing team wants to write all the messages in a very specific way. If you train it on all the announcements, you get it to speak in the sound that you want. Before the JSON toggle was announced at the dev day, you could have also taught it how to, with the fine-tuning, taught it how to go about very complicated nesting JSONs that you have and so on, because it was not consistent in JSONs as they got complicated. And Generally, a good recommended flow before just jumping to fine-tuning is doing your best in prompt engineering, then doing prompt chaining, so kind of several steps, then putting functions, and the very last thing is fine-tuning. This does not come instead, this comes on top of each other. This is kind of generally the best practice of how to use those different features. And there's also custom instructions, which is sort of fine-tuning, but for the your conversation with ChatGPT. If you want to set your voice and tell it how ChatGPT should be answering to you, this is how you're doing it, and this is where you do this. Then embeddings came to be. Embeddings is basically a mathematical representation of data. You take lots of data, you turn that into vectors. This is how it's visualized. And the recent thing that was published since 2 weeks is the GPTs, where it's sort of like plugins, but actually personalized GPTs, because everybody was like, but Llama is really cool, and I can use Llama for free, and I can fine-tune it on my little piece of data. So GPTs basically allows you to do that, and you can, there will be an app store around that. You can use it for all the different things. And Poe is a website that has nothing to do with OpenAI. You can try all the different AI agents and models out there. You don't have to be logged in. So if you don't have access to GPT-4, like there was a waitlist back then, or maybe to Claude, this is how you get to chat with all of them. Not good for production, great for playing around. Poe.com, this is by Quora. Last thing is the ecosystem. So lots of new things were created around that, like vector DBs. Lots of companies who try to build their own models, and goes anywhere from Anthropic, which was by people who left OpenAI, to X, whatever Elon Musk has in mind, but also Baidu and other players that we don't often hear about in Europe. Lots of companies came to be around that. Many of them are in the field of securing AI. Some companies that I found that recently raised money, for example, one is called Wraithwatch, one is Cranium, or Serenium, don't know how to pronounce their name. They have raised very respectful rounds, and they're all doing AI security. Some are securing with AI, some are securing the AI. OWASP, they have published some months ago a list of vulnerabilities in the context of LLMs. Everything that we saw now in the brief history of LLMs, we're going to see how that relates in what OWASP was saying. And the first one, obviously, prompt injection. You can manipulate the behavior by prompts that override the design, right? You tell it to do one thing, or design it to be one thing, it becomes another thing. I think everybody tried to make the prompt behave or use prompt to make it behave in a different way. Insecure output handling. Just like bringing any external user input into your system, if you don't validate what's going on, that's a bad idea. Training data poisoning. This is probably the hardest one to solve. Anybody has a startup that's already trying to solve this? Not yet. OK, soon. Yeah, collecting data from the internet and making sure it's not poisonous and it's not like setting some backdoor or like some keyword that will activate the unexpected behavior and whatnot. I expect one of those security breaches to happen, and honestly, I don't know how to go about that being safe. Just training data is huge for those models, and you cannot possibly secure all of it and scan all of it. Or can you? Model denial of service, like the DDoS that we saw on ChatGPT last week. Supply chain vulnerabilities, dataset models and whatnot. It's a bit like using unsafe languages, programming languages. If you use it in a safe way, then you're probably, and put safeguards and whatnot, you're probably going to be fine. Sensitive information disclosure. It's not deterministic. You need to make sure that no private data is being exposed and so on. I know there's a whole talk later today about this topic. Insecure plugin design. This is dated, the document that I took this from OWASP, is from October 13. As we said, 2 weeks ago, GPTs were introduced. I expect them to replace plugins, but it's really the same thing. People develop those things on their own, just like software can be insecure. Plugins, GPTs will be insecure. Excessive agency, so especially in the context of autonomous agents, on the one hand, it's great that there's something that will automate all sorts of things that you don't want to do. On the other hand, you need to make sure that they do this in a safe way. Over-reliance. The completing side of the agents having a lot of autonomy is relying too much on their output and not checking what they do. Model theft is, the bad outcome of this is you just lose money, but the good bad outcome is when you lose a lot of money. The bad outcome is you also lose a lot of data. Generally, I can say that I see a lot of comparison between this and software, in the sense that how models are a little bit equivalent to programming languages, plugin, or whatever it will be. GPTs is kind of the software. So a lot of the practices that you have for how to hack with C or whatnot, versus all the different practices of how to keep your software secure, I see many of those things that be carried over into this world, and you can use the same practices. There's a lot more to invent, especially because of the non-deterministic nature, different scales, and so on. But the low-hanging fruits are already there. Now, some fun examples. Voice generation. So there are two big actors in this world. For voice generation, it's 11 Labs, and for voice transcription, it's Whisper. And I'll show a short video, or short snippet from 11 Labs. I didn't request an advanced voice. Is there any chance to spontaneously let voice? Let's see who will be gracing us with her.
Guten Tag, Natalie Pistunovich, und guten Tag, State of the Art AI, just like this one.
Greetings from the Chancellor. So to use 11 Labs, all you need is to give in some text and a voice sample. For those who did not use 11 Labs, you have to have the consent of the person who uploaded this. Obviously, I did not do this, so let's keep this between us. But in the world of fake news, this is a big deal. In the world of social engineering, this is something that's going to be hard and complicated. The QR code just leads you to a video, to a YouTube playlist of all the demos that you'll see. Yeah, social engineering or fake news, I don't know which of the users will be more scary with this, but it's quite easy. And yeah, you have like the terms and conditions, but not all hackers follow those. Then there is speech to text. So Whisper is the most popular API that you can use for transcribing. They support 57 languages and immediate translation to English. I can imagine also in the field of social engineering having this very useful tool, right? You can imagine somebody having a conversation, calling some support center and trying to, figure out the color of their whatever truck does their cleaning service. You can transcribe the call live, you can send those queries into ChatGPT, you can send it back, and then kind of have it give the script for you, if you do that, not a recommendation. Next is audio. Meta has the most popular tool for this right now. It's called MetaGen, a music gen. Can I ask for sound again? So music gen, you just go to Hugging Face, you put a description. I put there when the 80s meet electro and metal, and I received one of the bands that I like. I think if you hear them, you might see the similarity. Now I was trying to think what can be a use case for that, and nothing specific came to mind, but then again, I'm not a social engineer. Maybe somebody will find me later and give me some creative ideas how music can be in the service of this. Maybe fake news, create for me a news that I want to say that are reporting from one land, and we'll open a music tune, and this will be like close enough. Yeah, it sounds like a real show. Image, obviously, DALL-E 3, and can generate the very first model that you put text and you get images, and over the years, over the 1.5 years that it was alive, it improved quite well. Now you put text and you get a very good resolution image with a good number of fingers and so on. Wars are going on right now. We see all those pictures. We know this is in use. But the interesting thing is that you can use instability, something that is called control net. To control net, you give an image and you say extract the pose. So what you see, those fingers or sticks, is what you get as an output from this image with a skateboard, and then you can move those around just like a toy or like a doll. And then you say, this is the final pose, and then say, generate lots of image for me, and then make those images be in this position. This is how it looks. This is fun for the gaming industry, but I can also absolutely imagine this being used for things like fake news or, again, social engineering images. We have pictures of you doing things. Click this link or else. And also Midjourney does image generation, yeah? Then there is video. For video, there are two big platforms right now. One is called Wonder Dynamics by Wonder Studio AI. On their board is Steven Spielberg. He believes in this new field. Here, this tool, what it does is that you take a video and you plant inside a virtual character that interacts with the existing video. So for example, this person interacts with that person, and in the movement, in the speak, everything, it sounds real. Fake news, yeah, it keeps being a very useful tool for this as well. Runway ML is another tool that you can use for this purpose, and here's a video I made about myself because I don't want to use pictures of other people. Can I have sound?
Pantheon of heroes, one face is surprisingly familiar. Hers is the face of Natalie Pistunovich.
Fun and inspirational. Thank you very much. My point is that it's not hard. I am not an artist. I am very much a person who writes digits on the like text on the screen and sees what happens, and still I managed to make art to make such a fake video. So it will be, you know, it doesn't always going to be so nice and positive. Here, it was just making some pictures with Midjourney and then using Runway ML to kind of do the transition between them. But you can imagine that if you want to fake some video, it's also going to make some images and some scenes, and it's going to be quite easy to say, be in this specific pose, or wear this type of shirt and whatnot, and make the video between them, and it's going to be hard to make it. Maybe there are going to be tools that will say, this looks fake, this looks real. Some ideas, inspiration, if you already know about those things. From all the images and all the videos, I can imagine that steganography is also going to be a big deal. You're going to be planting lots of information there. A lot more videos will be shared. I don't know if it's the same practices of compression and like where you download how from, how are the last bits looking like, how is this going to look in this world? Is this something that will help you understand more or understand less? Is it fake? Is it not fake? Interesting. I'm curious to see, and I hope that people in the crowd will come up with cool ideas next year. Come and tell us about your cool projects. Multimodal is when you take all of them at once. So ChatGPT now does it all. You can upload a picture and have a conversation about that. Burned my hand. I have some creams at home. I forgot which one I need to use. I just put them next to each other. Is this the right one? Yes, good. Here's an image of a dashboard. Write for me the code to build this website. Perfect for phishing emails. Lots of pictures that are instructions, one after another. What does it say? This can also help you with things like, here's the picture of this office. Help me, where is the entrance that I want to go? Or here is, I'm running out of examples, but you can have a conversation with it about things you see. Breaking CAPTCHAs. ChatGPT is generally a helper of yours. I will skip the audio here, but this is me having a conversation with ChatGPT to ask who should we pick as an example for a voice. I think it worked well. I think you all recognized it. Whoop, jumping. And the last thing is autonomous agents. Autonomous agents, the two most popular ones are AutoGPT and Baby AGI. Both of them are just GitHub repos you can run locally. If you want, you can give it permissions to access different APIs or even do things on your behalf. Start slow. When you give it a chance, start very slow, give it very gradual capabilities. Any Rick and Morty fans in the crowd? So autonomous agent, you give it a goal. Unlike with ChatGPT that you give it a task, you give it a general goal. It breaks it down to tasks on its own, then it proceeds to carrying out the tasks, and then it comes back to report the whole thing, and then it's gone. Those are the two repos. And the last thing that I will mention is that OpenAI has two programs. One is called Cybersecurity Grant Program. You can go there and fill out any idea that you have that is related to the defensive, not offensive, side of the context of AI, and you might get grant from them. Two, they have a red teaming network that you can join. Recap. We discussed a little bit LLMs, ChatGPT history, and all the different tools that you can use there, and we covered the different options or the leading tools right now in all the other fields, voice, audio, image, and so on. It was a lot, and all the demos are in this link. Thank you very much.